chapter lead and product owner of DevOps tooling at Spark New Zealand, our next speaker is deeply involved in the designing and implementation of DevOps process. His focus has always been to achieve software correctness by coaching development teams on secure coding and developer-driven testing. Furthermore, he loves to share his learnings and experiences with everyone as he believes in giving back. In a few minutes from now, he shall be appearing on your screens to share his experience on enterprise approach for implementing DevSecOps. Without much further ado, let's all welcome on the e-stage Mr. Ankit Gupta.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ankit Gupta. Today, I'm here to talk about enterprise approach for implementing DevSecOps. Starting with a bit of my introduction, my name is Ankit Gupta, as I mentioned, and I'm a chapter lead and product owner for DevOps tooling team at Spark New Zealand. I started my career as a developer, then going to the DevOps consultant role, and after now today, I'm taking the chapter lead role for all the DevOps tooling across Spark. You can read my blogs at www.guidetodevops.com. So before we jump into the DevSecOps or why we need it, we need to answer two major questions. The very first one to start with is why we need to consider security, why security has been norm nowadays, why everyone is talking about it. So the very first reason for that, which is 58% of the company had data breach last year. And this is according to the Forrester report, and 41% of from software vulnerability. And another second point in this one is that security mistakes have potential to cause considerable harm and cost organization millions. So take an example of Facebook hack, Target One, Uber. Everyone costed millions to the organizations. And the most important one is there is more at risk and it's growing. What does that mean? Refers here is that software is controlling more and more things now. So taking the digitization of medical reports or say medical software in the medical area, health sector like Spark Health, 5G, software defined networks. So it's all more and more coming to the softwares like self-driving cars. So we have to consider it more now of security of the software or software things. Now, just popping up with, if you see, this is the Forrester report, and the top was the software vulnerabilities in the web applications. Now, the second question is that everyone, when we talk about DevSecOps or bringing the security into the your CI/CD pipelines and all, the one thing which you ask that why we need to shift left. There are various reasons to it, but the biggest to consider is the cost. So if we just take this report, which is from the IBM System Science Institute, the cost is 100 times more to fix a defect if you find it into the maintenance mode, or which means on the right hand side of the production, and as compared if you find it in the design phase. So that is the biggest thing to focus on, that how we can find into the left hand side of the production so that we pay less to get the things fixed and faster. So let's start with the DevOps technologies, like how we can secure our technologies. So the biggest challenge when we go for this one, the very first one to start with is that security solutions which we had before didn't work in the new surrounding, or if I say security solutions often don't work in new surroundings. Take an example of endpoint protection. So initially you were having the VMs and you were able to scan, you have the fixed flow over there. Whereas in the new world where it's a container, you have various flows. So it is becoming difficult. The existing tools are not adapting it. So we have to modify, or even the tools has done some changes from their side. We were able to add it and implement some sort of similar kind of functionalities in the place. The second and the most disruptive one, which I believe is the containers and microservices. So if you see, that's the biggest difference here. So monolithic versus microservices. So when we were having the monolithic applications, we had the clear parameters and we were able to understand, okay, what's going in. We know which flow, where the request is coming in, from where the request is going in. Whereas with the microservice world, there are various ways to flow. There are various flows actually from the various routes are available to get the request and response. And that, and the deployment side, there was like a big package was going into particular release. We were able to understand what's going on, and you had proper auditing in the place. Whereas in the DevOps, or I say microservice and the containers, you have more and more deploys, like would be multiple in a day itself. So there is no way to like say audit each and every one. So how we that was the biggest challenge, and we'll talk about in later in the slides that how we do that into the early phases as well. The third biggest one is that the new security risks. So with adoption of all the DevOps technologies and with all the new things, we found that okay, there are new risks has been introduced. So let's take an example of cloud. So we know that everyone is trying to adopt the cloud, the public cloud. There are various benefits of going for the cloud. Take an example, pay as you go model. You can easily scale up, scale down, and all those things, all the benefits comes in from there. But at the same time, there are new security risks available because of that, like say storage bucket, unsecured storage bucket, like the Uber hack was because of that. The root was unless was there, and you are exposed more now, whereas in the legacy model you have your own data centers, you are behind the firewalls and all the stuff. So that's where you have to do more and more compliance and auditing for the cloud one. The other biggest challenge, which I believe most of the organization are facing, and specifically from Spark side as well, that more and more apps are moving to open source stack. So we are like everyone is trying to cut down the cost, licensing cost. That's biggest one, and just say that more and more is moving to open source. But and the data from our artifact repository shows that in the last 2 years we have 200% increase in pulling the artifacts from the npm and the maven repos and everything. But at the same time, the state of open source security gives another interesting data that there is 88% growth in application vulnerabilities in the last 2 years. And there are very other facts which I've pointed out in the slide if you're able to see on the screen. But another major one to consider here is that there is a median of 2 years when vulnerability was added and it gets fixed. 2 years is a long time to get exposed or to be exposed. So if you have some issues with any of the vulnerability, it means that 2 years the time that you're getting you get a fix for it. So now, what is the solution for it and how we have done it, and for the DevOps technologies challenges? So first thing we did is adapt existing security tools to new technology. So we try to repurpose the same tools as well. Say endpoint protection, we put the agents on the container host or within the container as well, so that we can have a proper flow and all the information about that where the data is going and everything, and address the new risks. So we have to understand that what are the new risks, say cloud compliance and all those things we have to bring in over there and start doing auditing around it, as well as the open source components. So we have to understand which application is using what open source components, what technology is being used and all those things. And we did put some tools also in the place. I will talk about shortly in that one. The second one now is security in DevOps methodologies. So let's see what does that refer here. So if you talk about the previous or the before DevOps era, you had a waterfall model where you design, develop, and there is you do a functional testing, and there is a phase comes in where you wait for auditing for the security, and then you go ahead. So, but in the new model, which is CI/CD, is that the new methodology, you are not supposed to stop. That's where you have continuous integration and deployment. You continuously deploying. There is nowhere you have to stop. So that is the biggest challenge. There is no time for stopping and doing an audit again over there. So what are the solution for it? How we do it actually? So solution is CI/CD. Yes, this is a bit surprised, but yes, CI/CD is, and adding the security into the CI/CD process is the solution, and you adapt how new existing security tools are applied. So there are various companies, startups are coming into this and trying to provide tools which we can integrate our CI/CD pipeline so that we can understand more how the impact is going to be, or the more reports over there, and that's where it is. Now, use the new opportunities to do better. DevOps not only adding the challenges, it also providing the new opportunities. I will talk about as well later on that what are the new opportunities we have seen and how we are using that. So just quickly glance, what are the benefits of including the security testing as CI/CD pipelines? So if you see reliable process, reliability, agility, the favorite one, which I like always, alerts and timely notification. So you get alerts, you get it bills and timely notification, which helps you to relate to the very first fact, which I was mentioning, the cost one. So you get a lot of defects which you can fix in the development phase itself. So that's how the biggest benefit comes in. And the trustworthy data, not only you are building the secure code, you are building the secure infrastructure as well. You're going for 360-degree view, omni-channel view to be secure over there. Now, I will use some of the Gartner words as SaaS dust. And so what we have done is we have integrated this old tooling with our CI/CD pipeline, with our development practices. So for security, static security, application security testing, we've been using two tools here in Spark New Zealand. The very first one is the SonarQube one. I think most of the people are aware of the SonarQube one. And the second one is the microsecurity code analysis. So just to what is Microsoft Security Code Analysis we use is that it is an anti-malware scanner. It is a group of various other tools which actually gives you the report into the single format, and it breaks the build and post-processing of the results. One of the facts which we had to consider as well, and it's a very good learning for all the way, that CI tools, firstly, when you start on the day one, will spit out a lot of false positive. So it's a continuous exercise where you train your tools so that you get the actionable insights, you get the better reports. So if you expect that I implement SonarQube today and I will able to solve all the vulnerabilities in my code, that is not going to happen because there will be a lot of false positive. And some team has to take ownership. It will be shared responsibility, but security team initially has to do a lot of follow-ups and ensure that you have a better reports coming out. They have to collaborate with the developers because both team has to agree on what is actually a false positive look like. So we had to define the policies around that, what is a false positive and how we consider it, why we have considered that. Now, another big challenge was the containers, the adoption of containers and everywhere in all the areas in the organization. So we use two tools, Clear and Dagda. So it as a part of code scanning and all the stuff, when the image get built over there, it scans and it integrates with the registry. We have built all the pipelines in the place, which actually scans that what image is running in one environment and then gives the update accordingly. And when there is an update happens into the vulnerability metadata, it sends in notification and changes has occurred and all those information. So the idea is that both the tools gives a report, and then we integrate those reports and send those reports to security experts as well as the developers over there. So now the static part where you have done the static analysis now on the source code. Now this comes on the dynamic application security testing. This is when your actual code is in operations, when it is running in either QA environment or in the higher environment over there. So we use two tools there, which is one is the ZAP API scan and second is the burp suite. So the actual phenomenon here in the DAST one is it's sort of an automated pen testing as well, where actually you try to find out how your application is going to respond to some of the, say, data injection, authentication issues, or the excesses, or cross-scripting, site scripting things, and all those things. And it gives you a report, a very good report, which talks about all the vulnerabilities in the OSAP top 10 as well. Just sharing a snapshot sample report from the ZAP one. This is we have created a central dashboard. It's in external one, an external tool where it shows all the data to security team as well, how it's looking in which environment. The important one is the timeline view here, actually. So it's not only that you've done the scan today and you're done, or before going live production you've done, because it is a continuous exercise. You have to keep on analyzing the code. You have to keep on analyzing the environments and everything. And the biggest reason is because something is not there today, but a vulnerability can be found tomorrow, and it can be, you have to keep scanning, and you should be aware that what's running in your environment, if there is a vulnerability over there or not, and what's the action to fix it. So the another one, which is the open source adoption. So because of the more and more open source adoption, so we have to start adopting this software composition analysis, where actually we are trying to block the stuff, or trying to block the libraries which are not even secure, or having high vulnerabilities, even it getting into repository. And that's, again, there is a policy enforcement in each and every step, and this is an automated one. The another good one, which we found a couple of tools, is giving feedback to developers into the ID. And that is quite important, that developer should be knowing itself from the very first phase that what's going wrong and what he has to do the change, and is that is easy change or a tough one, and all those things. And then it helps a lot. We have seen a tremendous decrease in a way that, okay, developers are adopting to these tools, and a tremendous decrease in more and more denying in the pull request of the data as well. Now, integrating all the SaaS, DAST, and the open source scans and static analysis, this is a DevSecOps pipeline look like for us. So we start with the user story here, and we create a user story, get it at the sprint, then a branch gets created for the user, development start working, dev work on with the class coverage, and then that's the way, which is an early feedback phase, where it is actually giving the result of the SaaS or the static code analysis within the ID itself. So it's telling that what kind of vulnerabilities you have used, or what kind of libraries you have used, and is that have any known vulnerability, and what level it is. Is it high, low, and all those things. And then developer commits the code to the branch. There are various pre-commit hooks as well sits in here, like which do some lot of scans, like passwords, credentials, and everything, and then gives the information about that. Then as soon as the code commit happens, it does the code review. Again, if there are comments, it goes back. And then the manual intervention of the peer review for the pull request and understanding what's going on and how it's going on. Then automation build happens. Once all it's happy path, it get merged to the release branch, and then get deployed to QA by automated build and deploy process over there, the CI/CD pipelines. And that's where this is the dynamic DAST comes into the picture, where it runs about web application scanning, mobile application security as well, and then it got deployed into production. And that's where we are emerging over there and trying to spend more time in the runtime application self-protection, like implementing the WAF firewalls and all those things. So it's a work in progress. So this is a DevSecOps pipeline look like, or I will say integration of the tools into the CI/CD pipeline to give reports in early phases itself. Sample reports, how does that look like? This is from the open source scans, which tells the libraries, and even the license entitlement as well for each library used. The burp report, SonarQube one, and the Claire one. One thing which I mentioned is that DevOps also brings the opportunities for us. So we have to start considering, say, for example, take an example in the legacy versus microservice world. So if you get compromised, you have to bring down your whole application in the legacy one and the monolithic one. So your whole application impact, the whole application impact stack get impacted. Where in the microservice world, you know that if there is a particular container get compromised, you kill that container. That's it, and your rest of the services are still up and running. Although it's an arguable if that's a core central microservice, but that's how it works. And you ensure that there is a way that all of my rest of the application stack is up and running for you by just killing that container and all those things. At the same time, with the CI/CD, you have more opportunities to deploy. You have a paved road now to go live into production. So you identified a vulnerability there, you fix it, you go through that CI/CD pipeline, and you can reach to production faster instead of doing the you had in the previous ways. If I take an example of Spark, you have one window in a quarter, then one in a month, whereas now you have any day. Once you have passed all the checks, all the policies, all the gating process, you're ready to go. Now, how do we do this? So the last part, which is the difficult one, is the shared ownership model. So how we include security in the ownership, the shared ownership model, how we will make sure that it moves from the traditional security where say only traditional security team is responsible for it, and they are doing the auditing when you are reached to that phase, and from to security is everyone's responsibility. So our friends in the Sneak, they did a survey based on the MCQ question based, is that who is responsible for security, and the outcome was that 81% people think that developer is responsible for that. That's great that 81% people think that, but how we make sure that developer understands it as well. Like they start owning this piece of work that yes, this is our responsibility. So what we need to do so that we make sure that developers start take ownership of this. So the very first thing which we find out when we discuss with our developers and find out that the security tools are made for security experts. They are so complex that they were not able to use it and didn't like to use it. It could be the UI part, it could be the way it was performed and all those things. It was so complex. So we started taking a different approach and started looking at which tools we can make sure the developer can use, or how we can put a interface on top of the existing one if we have to live with those tools and which developer don't like, so that it becomes easy for the developer so that they can directly use it. And the second question brings in from there also that education for non-security experts, how we train our developer as well to use some of those tools as well, not like as in the core security manner, but at least they will be able to read what reports that tool is doing, what for policies it is using, how it is scanning, and all those things. So it actually understand the core engine part of every tool, so they were able to make decisions better when they are using some of the any of the library or any of the piece of the code. The another one is actionable insights from the security scans. So this is quite important in a way. So that any tool was giving the reports. As I mentioned in the previous one, the CI, that you had false positive. Developers or neither developers nor the security expert love to read 100-page documents or say a 100-page report which tells you what is wrong. They want a precise one which they can take an action on top of it. So one of the tools which we use is it just raising automated pull request, which is tells you that, okay, what are the problems with your open source components or the versions you have used and all the stuff. That's where it comes in. So you have to ensure that the tool base which you have, it gives you the proper report or actionable insights. And it's a gradual process. It takes time to reach to there to get that particular stage. You have to spend some time to train your tools as well as security experts. So the security team in our team has stood up and try and collaborate with the developers to ensure more and more and to ensure that you have proper insights in the place. This one, I think most of the people know that there is a benefit. What are the benefits of automation of this DevSecOps? The biggest one, we know that we cannot, with the CI/CD, we cannot put manual people or more and more manual work to scans in every phase. That's the biggest reason that we have to actually go for automation, and we can relay on top of it, which actually leads into the freeing up the human resources where they can do more important tasks, or they can add to the value-added tasks and all those things, which increase the productivity of the team as well. And this is consistent, and you get a lot of defects, a lot of issues well before in the left-hand side of the production, which gives you the ROI on this whole tool set itself. So as I mentioned, it is 100 times more to fix a defect into the production as compared to the design and development phases. Now it is fast and scalable model as well. So and the Spark, okay, after implementation tool, what is our way forward? How we are going to do what we think that what is our next step? So the very first one is that adding the tool has added a bit of complexity also to the environment, which means that, okay, you have various dashboards, you have various other format of the reports. That's we are working continuously to bring a single integrated dashboard for all the security tools. And and also a targeted dashboard for audience, like a leadership. Our leadership wants to know how the security is embedded for each and every application. What is the performance? What is the improvement they have done from the last sprint to this sprint? And the portfolio managers want to understand from their particular portfolio, and a developer wants to know till the line of the code that where it has to be fixed and what has to be fixed. The second one, which is the automation of the rule pack of the application security scanning solution. So the idea is that how we can automatically define that this is a false positive. So taking an example, say we have app A and where we have marked some of them as a false positive for app A. Can we provide those insights for the app B as well? Like, okay, this is the team app A has considered as a false positive. Do you consider them as well false positive, or is that something you change it? And let's say app B says that that's not a false positive. Can we take that back to app A as well? That, okay, why do you think that that's a false positive itself in the very first place when another team or application team doesn't consider that? It could be highly chances that they have a different technology based code and all those things, but we can still, that's the idea of automating the whole stuff so that you get better reports, so you don't spend much time in configuring that what is false positive or not. And the second point leads to the third one, state that you put more enhanced gating rules, and so that you reduce the manual touch points for the policy verification or anything like that. So you have more and more enhanced gating rules. So you just pass all the rules automated way, and then you directly away go to the production as well. The another one which we are looking is that automated ticketing based system. So it's just not raising the ticket. So based on the severity issue, you raise the incidents in ITSM tool, and at the same time you validate a PR. So what does that refer is that you have raised a PR for you have fixed something and developer raised a PR, and it validated with the open tickets if it is fixing any open tickets. And then once that particular pull request get approved and the code get deployed to production, or that particular release get deployed to production, can we close that open request automatically so that you don't have so many open requests and you can focus on the fewer that why and prioritize fewer instead of tracking down, okay, it was fixed and all those things. The highest implementation one, the interactive analysis here. So because we know that the DAST analysis which we are running with the ZAP and API, it's taking a lot more time. So it cannot be done as a part of build. So we have to schedule it on the window basis and we do it over there, and that's how it is. So the highest one, the main focus is, can we take the unit testing results and provide to the tool so that it gives the same kind of report and behavior issues and all those things in very early stages. Now, just a couple of last few slides, just considering time in there. The DevSecOps, so what it takes to do transformational changes. So the whole idea is that, okay, you have the tools, you have the capability, you have implementation in place, you have everything in this. But again, how you make sure that adoption goes each and every team, how people start owning the stuff. The very first thing is defining the OKRs. So while defining the OKRs itself, you integrate the definition and the importance of security for that particular work stream. So where you define that how team has to consider that. So that's the very starting point, initial touch point. The second thing is, which is something as a team, like as a DevOps tooling team or from my team, we have to start considering, we did take into the action, is that when we apply all these tools or these gates, this should add to the value, or at least every developer should consider that this is adding to the process or it's adding value to the process. They should not consider it as it's a giant wall and somebody's trying to stop you for integration and doing any deployments and everything. So that's where it kicks in. The third one is the coach developers to adopt secure coding practices. So this is something we have started setting up a monthly catch up where senior developers or a few folks from my team or We go in there, conduct a session for the developers, so the new joiners and everywhere. We talk about the best practices, how we can do that. It's not only securing code practices, it's also like how we can write the effective and optimized code, reducing cyclometric complexity and all those things. Another one is the cross-skilling, where you actually ensure that security team also understand what developer pain points are, and even the same thing for the developer, and that okay, developer understand what security tools look like, why security is so important. And it's not only for developer and security. We actually involve architects, designers to the conversation, because security has to embed and start from the very first initial there when it is getting in the design phase itself. Now, invest in continuous education. It's not only actually investing in continuous education, invest in the whole process actually. So what personally I have observed is that a lot of people or a lot of leaders think that it's a one-time investment, that you invest one time for tooling as well as you for educating the people, and it is done and dusted. It's not actually. You have to continuously invest. You have to reiterate. You have to go back. You have to see that what tools have implemented, how people are considering it. You have to educate people, and also by doing this, you show them the interest and how serious about you as an organization you are about security, and they also start adopting it. The last one is but not least is to get involved in the community. It's a gradual process actually. So as an organization, as a developer, as an architect, you get involved with various other organizations, community, and understand how they are tackling the situation, how they are getting how they're getting these things done, and how they're integrating their tools as well as their culture and all the stuff over there. So that's actually empower people, and that actually gives more and more information with developer. We have seen that by organizing these meetups and everything, where a lot of developer comes in, so developers start understanding seriousness about this one particular one, and that's where the whole conferences, ideas, and everything comes in, where you get involved and share the ideas and all how you have done it. The last slide is that a quick one to go through is that what's the plan, action plan, how you tackle an implementation of things. The very first stage comes is the protect. In this stage, you implement all the tools, you implement all the policies, you define what it look like, and you actually try to stop the thing in the very first phase, the SAST one, or the dash scanning in the QA environments. You do that and try to understand how your actual code base look like. So there we are trying to reduce all the possible vulnerability get in there in first place in production. The second thing is detect. So now your code is in operation, your application is in operation, you're in business, you continuously detect that, assuming that there is a Trojan in your network, or there is a particular vulnerability in network, how to get it fixed, how to understand if there is an anomaly in the behavior, that runtime, which I mentioned, the DevSecOps pipeline, runtime application security protection, self-protection, where you understand if there is an anomaly coming on there or not, or what's going on in each and everything. So you implement, again, the tooling practices over there. The third one is respond. So you get compromised, you have issues now, all those things, but how to respond. But one of the things which when I was talking to one of the application lead, or I will say platform owner, is saying that we had a breach now, what we can do. That was a very bad situation to be. So you should have a response plan. You should understand that if this happens, what we need to do, all those response plans. At the same time, response plan also refers here is that also covers that you need to understand and start doing assessment what got compromised, what either it is an information thing, and what are the apps got impacted, and start ensuring that is you're trying to eliminate that now. That's the whole idea, and that's a point in time. Okay. Now the fourth one is the recover. So now today's business is not the day that you are shut down for weeks and all. So you had a breach, you have impact, you got compromised, how you ensure that you come back, you do all the business activities again, or make big business as usual. So that's where the first three steps come play a crucial role. Play a crucial role for this. So having a response plan which covers that, what is how you will bring it back. Say, I was talking to another application team from a different organization. They mentioned that how they brought up all the servers back within 24 hours of when their one server was got compromised, bringing a new firewall itself for the new network altogether. So that's where it comes in. What is your response plan and readiness check? That if this happens, what is your backup plan or the plan B, and doing that. So and that also requires some sort of investment from the leadership as well, and every team has to invest that on that one particular one. And the last one is reevaluate. As I mentioned, it's a continuous thing. So you always go through again and again from protect, detect, respond, and recover, and ensure that you are always top on the toes. You are getting all the new tools, new technologies. You have things in the place. Your policies are getting changed again and again based on the new technologies and the new compliance rules and everything. So that's it from my side. I hope you have enjoyed the talk.